This is Kardec Radio bringing you the book Getting to the Light, Spiritist Therapy for Discarnate Spirits, written by Nilson de Souza Pereira. This partial audio recording will cover Part 1, pages 7 through 9. Spiritist Therapy for Discarnate Spirits. A discarnate spirit is someone who has left his or her physical body upon dying. Crowds gathered also from the towns around Jerusalem, bringing their sick and those tormented by evil spirits, and all of them were healed. Acts chapter 5, verse 16. The Spiritist therapy for discarnate spirits is a psychotherapeutic technique that has been used throughout the ages and applied on behalf of troubled discarnate spirits. In ancient Western sanctuaries, significant spiritual interventions were used to help disturbed and troublemaking spirits, removing them away from the incarnate beings whom, consciously or not, those discarnate spirits used to torment. Jesus, when facing unhappy spirits from beyond the grave, acted as the supreme psychotherapist, persuading them to change their behavior, elucidating them and making them aware of ignoble acts they had practiced in the past. Jesus often conversed with those tormenting spirits, demonstrating to them his sublime qualities. His disciples later kept up this ministry, abiding by the lessons they had been taught, and applying these lessons with wisdom and love to help troubled and hateful spirits. Allan Kardec, the remarkable codifier of the Spiritist doctrine, which consists of the Spirit's Book, the Medium's Book, the Gospel explained by the Spiritist doctrine, Heaven and Hell, and Genesis, drew from advances in psychology and other sciences to offer resources and guidelines that help us understand the reality of the spiritual world. Those resources and guidelines are invaluable for us to understand and help those discarnate spirits who fool themselves and continue to carry grudges and injuries even after the death of the physical body. Through Spiritism, we become aware that in the genesis of the whole process of human suffering, the afflicted individual is always the one responsible for his or her own achievements and downfalls. Death does not release us from life. Instead, pursuant to our physical life on earth, death only releases us from our bodies so that we become discarnate spirits. We remain the same persons we were when we left the body. Thus we awaken in the hereafter, as we were when we died biologically. There are no two equal lives, nor two identical discarnations. There are no two similar awakenings either. A full description of the different types of awakenings in the afterlife can be read in the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. Disturbances are likely to affect those discarnate spirits who in physical life were driven by self-indulgence and selfishness, rather than the love and moral renewal that are indispensable for balance during corporeal life. Those individuals maintain the same characteristics in the spiritual realm as they had during their time on earth. In Spiritism, charity means love in action, and it is the soul of Spiritism through which mediumship can help discarnate spirits who have carried into the spiritual realm the moral problems that used to afflict them during physical life. They manifest themselves as tormented and mystified by their own condition. Mediumship can also help treat obsessors, who are discarnate spirits who take advantage of their new condition to inflict revenge on the incarnate enemies who had hurt them in previous existences. Spiritism offers an efficient form of psychotherapy for those unhappy spirits. This psychotherapy is based on the soul's knowledge of immortality, as well as the laws that rule all forms of life. When troubled spirits manifest themselves to incarnate beings through painful mediumistic communication, a spiritual psychotherapist invites them to rethink their concepts and to change their spiritual and moral behavior. Those troubled spirits are still deeply connected to somatic body memories and suffer with sensations that do not relate to their spiritual reality anymore. They still experience the afflictions that led them to discarnation and may not be aware of their true situation. A comforting and enlightening psychotherapeutic intervention becomes necessary for them to consciously awaken and become aware of their new situation, coming to accept that an irreversible occurrence has taken them away from the physical body. But this psychotherapeutic work is not easy. It is necessary for all of those who practice it to be well trained, so that their own personal issues will not worsen the situation of the discarnate spirit, but actually release him or her from the afflictive conditions that are causing the disturbance. The first element in this form of psychotherapy is to be aware that love is the best language for any effort to contribute to someone's well-being. Love is the true healing force that manifests itself and generates healthy energy fields that can positively change the patient. There is also enormous power in words that are full of fraternity and interest in helping the discarnate. It is particularly important to avoid deep and erudite expressions, because this is not a moment for needless intellectual exhibitionism. We should also use clear and concise words, guiding the patient to accomplish a self-assessment, an inner awakening to his or her real situation. We should start by listening to the discarnate visitor so that we can learn what is going on and discover the most critical reasons for what is troubling that spirit. Next, we should try to explain to the discarnate spirit that he or she is living a new situation, different from the usual experiences in the physical body. Life unfolds in successive phases where the crib and the grave represent gates through which we get in and out of the body, but never in and out of life. Life is eternal, therefore there's no interruption. It is up to us to learn the mechanisms governing each phase of life so that we can flourish in each of them, even those that are apparently more difficult. From a psychological standpoint, we should be careful about not bluntly informing the troubled spirit that discarnation, death of the physical body, has already occurred. The troubled spirit may still be very attached to the material remainders and fighting to raise them again. It is not unusual for a troubled spirit to fool him or herself into thinking that all that happened was a simple feint and to stay attached to the old material body. Often the troubled spirit is still being driven by the same diseases, domestic dramas, and social needs that govern the physical existence, and which now leave the spirit in total disorientation, in a frenzy of insanity.